One and all, one and all. Now, initially I had planned to not do another football video. I think I did enough of that with the African Cup of Nations. I wasn't going to do another one, at least until the World Cup, because then things get interesting. But, you know, the Pan-African world is far bigger than just my fascination with border. And you know, we've been talking about other things as well. I've got a couple other interviews lined up and other videos lined up that have nothing to do with the beautiful game. Then today this news broke and I just had to talk about it. And I'm sure by now all those of you who care about this topic have heard something about that. But I wanted to do a few things here. I wanted to clarify what it is that has really happened and also give us a refresher of what happened when it did happen, okay? And we'll see what all this means. So, yeah, by now you've heard that Senegal, the African Cup of Nations champions, they've now been stripped of the title, and now officially it reads that Morocco won the game 3-0. Right. I was watching the Champions League this afternoon, scrolling through my phone as one does, and I saw this pop up and I immediately thought it was the kind of farcical thing that people bring up, right? When people talk about UEFA or CAF or whoever should investigate this. I remember with Zimbabwe in the tournament, our captain had handled the ball in a very dubious way, and people were talking about how FIFA was on the case, and in my mind I was just like, yeah, FIFA doesn't, this is not the kind of thing that FIFA concerns itself with, you know what I mean? So I immediately assumed it was one of those things. And before I commented, you know, I'm very brash. I've been feeling very cantankerous of late. A brash way to say, y'all need to develop some digital literacy and find out what's really going on before you write this. I was like, let me do my due diligence. So I went in and I Googled, you know, I started to look up at more reputable sources. And this is a thing that is happening. This is a thing that has happened. And allow me to read, for context sake, from NBC Sports here. The headline goes, Senegal stripped of AFCON title. Morocco declared champions by governing body. And I'll just read the first paragraph here. The first few paragraphs, sorry. Senegal has been stripped of their 2025 African Cup of Nations title, and the trophy has been awarded to Morocco. It has been announced by the Confederation of African Football, CAF. So, you know, the final was played in 2026, but the tournament was, you know, began in December 2025. A quite remarkable ruling has handed Morocco the title after the final on January 18, 2026 turned into chaos in Rabat, Morocco. 2 months on from that unbelievable final, Morocco are officially champions of Africa. So that's the basics of the news article. Let me now switch to the actual press release by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, to see what it says. We'll just read the intro of that before we go back to refresh so that we know all that happened in the game. So when we're talking about the sanctions and whatnot, we are talking from a place of knowing, at least from a place of re-knowing, okay? I have it here. This is the media release communique de presse from CAF Appeal Board. Now, this is important. This is the Appeal Board media statement. The CAF Appeal Board decided that in application of Article 84 of the regulations of the CAF Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON, the Senegal national team is declared to have forfeited the final match of the Total Energies CAF African Cup of Nations, AFCON, Morocco 2025, in parentheses, the match, with the result of the match being recorded as 3-0 in favor of the Fédération Royale Marocaine de Football, right? FRMF, or really the Moroccan national team. This is what this is. On the appeal by Morocco regarding the application of Articles 82 and 84 of the regulations of the CAF African Cup of Nations, the CAF Appeal Board made the following rulings. Now, I keep talking about the CAF and AFCON, right? CAF is the federation, AFCON is the Tournament African Cup of Nations. But you'll see why those numbers, 82, 83, 84, get confusing, because they are two separate codes, but they use similar numbers. We'll talk about that. But anyway, the following rule is by the CAF Appeal Board. The appeal lodged by Morocco is declared admissible in form, and the appeal is upheld. This is the appeal that Senegal violated the rules and they shouldn't have won. The CAF Disciplinary Board decision is set aside. So the Disciplinary Board, we'll talk a little more about what that actually does, because that is the board that decided on the day, right, that Senegal had won. Okay, we'll come back to that. The CAF Appeal Board further finds that the conduct of the Senegal team falls within the scope of Articles 82 and 84 of the regulations of the African Cup of Nations. The protest lodged by Morocco is upheld. It is declared that the Fédération Sénégalaise de Football, through the conduct of its team, infringed Article 82 of the regulations of the African Cup of Nations. In application of Article 84 of the regulation of the African Cup of Nations, the Senegal team is declared to have forfeited the match, with the results recorded as 3-0 in favor of Morocco. All other motions or prayers for relief are dismissed. Okay, now we're there. All right, cool. So this sounds like a little bit like a lot of jargon, culminating in the fact that the Senegal's win has been revoked, and now Morocco is the winner, right? Let's talk about the match. Let's revisit the match. January 18, 2026, okay? The game had been 0-0, and for the most part, pretty competitive, but not too exciting, right? And I've done a whole video about that, so I don't want to rehash everything that happened in that game. But in the 5th minute of stoppage time, Senegal thought they had won from a corner kick. But in the build-up to that play, Achraf Hakimi of Morocco was knocked to the ground while contesting the kick with Abdoulaye Seck. Then, Seck himself would end up setting up the goal, right? And referee Jean-Jacques Ndala made a controversial call against Seck, right? He spotted Seck as having fouled Achraf Hakimi, and resulting in the goal being disallowed. So this was already like a controversial thing. Some people were complaining that Ndala blew his whistle before the play ended, yada yada. But in 3 minutes, right, Senegalese defender, I remember this guy, El Hadji Malik Diouf, not to be confused with El Hadji Diouf from earlier from the early 2000s. He held Moroccan forward Brahim Diaz of Real Madrid in the penalty area, triggering a VAR review. And Morocco got a penalty, at which point, right, the coach, Senegalese coach Pape Thiaw, instructed the squad to leave the pitch. Then the match was suspended for approximately like 14-15 minutes until mainly Sadio Mane, their talisman, rallied them to come back to the pitch. Later on saying that the war deserved to see a game, and we can't just quit because things aren't going our way. Famous quotes that he said at the time. Again, I've spent more time talking about it in an earlier video, which I'll link to this one. They come back, further delays, and ultimately Brahim Diaz takes the penalty. It's a Panenka, right? Panenka style penalty, and it's handily saved by Edouard Mendy. The game goes into extra time then as a result of that, and in extra time, Pape Gueye ends up scoring the only goal of the match for Senegal, and Senegal, in the 94th minute, holds on to win 1-0 on the night. Okay. So that's something that happened. During the game though, right, for as drab as it had been until the end, one of the things that kept happening during the game, which we've spoken about, and I'm only bringing this up because it comes up too in the ruling here, was the Moroccan ball boys messing with Edouard Mendy's towels and so forth, and it was just a farcical thing where Senegal ended up having to send their their reserve goalkeeper to stand by the nets so that they can protect, so he can protect the goalkeeper, Edward Mendy's towels, and just to see him going back and forth with ball boys was, I've never seen that, right? But also another player, number 11 on the Moroccan team, Ismail Saibari, attempted to discard the hand towel belonging to the keeper, right? And then the substitute goalkeeper, Yevan Diouf, repeatedly intervened to retrieve it. The scenes, you've seen the scenes are straight out of a slapstick comedy. That also comes up here. So that is what happened in the game. That is what happened in the game. So I will now revisit the press release and add a little more nuance into what each of those articles mean. Well, let's talk right now about the articles, right? We'll hear mainly about two main articles, Article 82 and Article 84 of the AFCON regulations. We'll talk about the CAF disciplinary code later, and they use similar numbers. That's where the confusion comes in. But the AFCON regulations say this. Article 82, a team that refuses to play or leaves the field before the end of the match without the referee's authorization shall be sanctioned. Now, the sanctions aren't clear there, but you shall be sanctioned. Article 84, right, says a team that contravenes Article 82 or 83, right? Oh, let me just read 83. It's not very relevant to this, but let me just read it for parity's sake. A team not present on the field, ready to play at kickoff or within 15 minutes shall forfeit the match. Okay, that's not very relevant to this. But because Article 84 says a team that contravenes Article 82, the one about leaving the pitch, or 83, about not being there at the beginning, is eliminated or loses 3-0 or worse score stands, right? So if you already lose like 5-0, then that would be the score that stands. Further measures may be taken, and we'll see what some of those further measures here look like. So that is according to the rule book. So what does that mean? Strictly by the rule book, Senegal should have been sanctioned right then, right? But this is something that is more privy to the CAF appeal board. The disciplinary board sort of almost acts in the moment, right? Indeed, and that's where it becomes farcical that CAF allowed it to get this far. Let's get back to our media release here. So I will reread the parts here. The Confederation, right, CAF appeal board decided that in application of Article 84 of the regulations of the AFCON, Senegal is declared to have forfeited the final match of AFCON, with the result of the match being recorded as a 3-0 in favor of Morocco. Now, according to the rules, according to that code that I just stated, that is exactly what should happen because Senegal left the field. And again, we go through all the things that the appeal lodged by Morocco stands. The CAF disciplinary board decision is set aside. I want to touch on that real quick, because it's important, right, to know why the disciplinary board says one thing and the appeal board says another thing. So the disciplinary board, what is the disciplinary board? It's sort of like the trial court, right? Reviews incidents, right? Match reports, referee notes, footage. Applies the CAF regulations, or at least they should. They'll issue suspensions, fines, make match decisions. So what they'll say is, here's what happened in the final. Here are the punishments, and here's the match outcome, right? This is sort of what the disciplinary board says. The appeal board is more like the appeals court. It reviews the decisions made by the disciplinary board. So the disciplinary board might make a decision that kind of funges the actual rule book a little bit, maybe because it's situational. It's maybe like reading between the lines. The appeal says these are what the rules. So what it says is, it doesn't start from scratch, but it says, were the rules applied correctly? Was procedure followed properly by the disciplinary board? Were the sanctions appropriate? And then it can uphold the decision, modify it, or maybe just overturn it entirely. So in a nutshell, disciplinary board, what happened and what should we do about it? Whereas the appeal board is like, did you get that right? So the CAF appeal board is what's at play right now. Okay. So on the day off, the disciplinary board like interprets the walk off, the chaos. Hey, is this justified? Oh, maybe we can just keep the game going, whatever. Right, uses its own discretion. Then the appeal board, after Morocco challenges, hey, this is not what the rules say. It goes back to talking about the rules. All right, let's go back now to our press release. Okay. The disciplinary board's decision is set aside by the appeal. The CAF appeal board further finds that the conduct of the Senegal team falls within the scope of Articles 82, right? Remember, Article 82, a team that refuses to play or leaves the field before the end of the match without the referee's authorization shall be sanctioned. So that's then 84, if that happens, then you lose the game to result. That's what they find now. Okay. And as a result of that, all other motions or prayers for relief are dismissed. Now, the CAF appeal board also ruled the following, right? The appeal lodged in respect of Mr. Ismail Saibari, right, number 11, the guy I was talking about who was messing with the towels. He was the only player. The other people were ball boys and maybe Ashraf Hakimi. They did some things, but Saibari was the one who was consistently doing it. What was he doing? Right. This is when when they attempted to discard the hand towel belonging to the Senegalese goalkeeper. Right. All that nonsense. It was very puerile and really put the game into yeah. It's just sucked, man. Just to see grown men doing that. But in any case, so that happens. A few Moroccan players, mainly Saibari, tried to interfere with the Senegalese goalkeeper, Mendy, by removing or messing with his towels on the sideline. The towels being used to dry the ball, gloves in wet conditions. Saibari's involvement was seen as a deliberate distraction at sporting behavior and was just like a part of the larger breakdown in discipline that was happening on both sides. But mainly with Morocco and then Senegal reacting by walking off. Okay, so what was that punishment? So that was partially upheld. The CAF appeal board confirms that the finding that Saibari committed misconduct in violation of Articles 82 and 83 of the CAF disciplinary code. Now, notice how that's also number 82 and 83, which you spoke about in terms of the AFCON rulebook. Now, this is not the AFCON rulebook that's at play now for Saibari. The AFCON rulebook applies more for the teams. The CAF rulebook, which would probably be the same in the African Champions League and so forth, is a different rulebook. It just so happened that the relevant numbers are the same numbers, but they actually stand for different things. 82 in this case is this. Any player or official who engages in unsporting conduct or violates the principles of fair play shall be subject to disciplinary sanctions. Then 83 goes, any player or official who behaves improperly, causes disorder or interferes with match operations, including officials' VAR area, commits misconduct and may be sanctioned. So that 82 and 83 is different from the one that was relevant to Senegal. And I hope that makes sense. All right, so what are we saying here? So we'll go back. So he contravenes those things, of course, because this was unsportsmanlike and interferes with the game. The sanction imposed on Saibari is amended to a suspension of 2 official CAF matches, of which 1 is suspended. And I think that's ridiculous, right? He's messing with, he's down to just missing 1 game for doing this nonsense. The fine of 100,000 imposed on Saibari is set aside. So he went from having to pay $100,000 and missing games. Now he's just missing 1 game. The appeal lodged in respect of the ball boys incident is partially upheld. The CAF appeal board confirms the finding that Morocco is responsible for the conduct of the ball boys, and the fine imposed on Morocco in respect to the ball boys is reduced to 50,000. What are we doing here? Now here it says, the appeal lodged in respect to the interferences around OFR VAR review is dismissed. The fine of 100,000 imposed on Morocco in respect to the interference of the officials and VAR review area is confirmed. Initially, when I read that, and if you've seen my short, I thought that was contradictory. But what they actually mean was Morocco appealing that punishment they had received is what has been dismissed, and their charge of $100,000 has actually been upheld. So Morocco is paying $100,000 this. The appeal lodged in respect of the laser incident is partially upheld, right? The appeal that appealed the punishment they received for shining a laser into the Senegalese player's eyes, and as a result of that, that is reduced to $10,000, and all other motions or prayers of relief are dismissed. So what has happened here? According to the AFCON rulebook, a team that walks off the pitch in protest or what have you, that's Article 82, is liable to be sanctioned, and the sanction, as stated in Article 84, says you forfeit the game 3-0. The disciplinary, our controversy here. Well, the controversy with CAF is, if that is what the rule book says, Senegal should have never gotten the trophy. What are we doing here? This is the kind of stuff that makes AFCON and CAF look pretty incompetent. Because if that is the problem, well, then fix it on the day off. Why does it take 2 months to kind of retroactively get this, right? And because of the other punishments with Morocco looking like they're being treated with kid gloves, it kind of makes it seem as if the frustration that the Senegalese received was indeed purposeful. And once you broke them, the hope was that we could forfeit the game in that way. Is that tinfoil hat type stuff? Possibly. But again, this is where the disconnect is. That something was decided on the day off, even though the rule book is clear about it. And 2 months later, that changes. This is unprecedented. You let me know you follow football. You follow, in other federations, at other levels of the game. Is that a thing that happens, that a team is actually awarded a trophy, and without new evidence coming to light, everything that we know now, we knew at the time, without new evidence coming to light, that is changed? Their win is forfeited. Let me know in the comments section here, indeed. But thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to do this video very quickly, just to keep us abreast of something that I'd spent some time talking about in the last couple months. Indeed, join me next time, and please be sure to like, share, and subscribe if this conversation has added anything to your understanding and discourse of this particular topic. One.